This week on The Watchman, welcome to Shiloh. Before the Ark of the Covenant was housed in Jerusalem, it was here in Shiloh, inside the Tabernacle. And today, we're going to take you through the amazing biblical history of this city and show you how Shiloh is being rebuilt today, just like the land of Israel. It's The Watchman. It's Christians united for Israel, only right here on TBN. And welcome to The Watchman from Jerusalem. For over 3,000 years, this city has been the center of worship for Israel and the Jewish people. You see the golden dome of the rock over my right shoulder there, standing atop the Temple Mount? It's the third holiest site in Islam. But over 1,300 years before the Dome of the Rock was ever built, Solomon's Temple stood right there on the Temple Mount. Inside it was the Ark of the Covenant, where God's divine presence dwelt. Jerusalem was a place of pilgrimage for all who worshiped the God of Israel, just as it is once again today. Yet before Jerusalem, there was another city here that served as the main center of worship. In English, it's often called Shiloh, but here in Israel, it's known as Shiloh. For nearly 400 years, this city in the Samaria region was home to the Ark of the Covenant, which was housed inside a large tabernacle. Now, before there was the temple, there was the tabernacle, and Shiloh was the place where all the tribes of Israel gathered to worship God. You can read all about it in the Old Testament of your Bible. Eli, the high priest, Hannah, the prophet Samuel, all of them lived in Shiloh. Today we're going to take you to Shiloh for an incredible tour through this ancient biblical city. So let's head about an hour and 20-minute drive north of here to Shiloh. Well, Nakum, we are in a very important place here in the land of Israel. Tell us about Shiloh and why this place is so special.
To understand Shiloh, you've got to start with a little slice of history. Everyone knows the story of the Jewish people leaving Egypt, right? Pharaoh, Mount Sinai.
The Exodus, of course.
Right. You also know the story of the Jewish people going down to Egypt.
Joseph did go down.
Right. It's just a family. It's not the Jewish people. We start calling them the Jewish people at Sinai, okay? That's where big changes happen. One of the big changes is God says, build a tabernacle. Now, you don't know what a tabernacle is, right? You've been in a tabernacle?
Well, it's Sukkot. I think of the Feast of Tabernacles,
right,
of course.
But you've never actually been in a real tabernacle.
Not the real thing.
There aren't any anymore in the world. It's one of the things, a lot of the things in Shiloh just don't exist in the world anymore, okay? So to understand Shiloh, one of the things, the first things you have to understand is a tabernacle.
And the tabernacle was important. Why?
Okay, the tabernacle is the center. The tabernacle is the place you connect with God. And that, to understand, they have to understand all the different pieces and how the way they all fit together.
Yeah, and now inside the tabernacle, there was a few very important objects, but one in particular, very, very important. Tell us about it.
So there are two main focuses. The first one's the altar, which we can talk about a little bit, but the whole rest of the whole tabernacle focuses around the Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant.
The Ark of the Covenant.
Where God's presence dwelt.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So the tabernacle, before the temple in Jerusalem, Nakum, which became the center of worship, obviously, what you're saying basically is Shiloh was the place. This was the place where people came to worship the Lord.
When Shiloh exists, there is no such thing as Jerusalem. No one has ever yet said the word Yerushalayim. This is all before Jerusalem exists. There's a Jebusite city over there, and nobody cares about it. Shiloh is the focus. Shiloh is the capital at that point.
Shiloh is the capital of the land of Israel, Nakum. That's amazing. In the pre-Davidic period, before King David, this was the spot. This was central in importance to Israel and the Jewish people.
The first temple is a little more than 400 years. The second temple is a little more than 400 years. Shiloh is the capital for almost 400 years. These are the three big periods of time.
And the tabernacle, the meeting place, the Ark of the Covenant was here for how long?
For 369 years.
That's quite a long run. To say this place is significant to the land of Israel, to the Jewish people in the Bible, Nakum, is an understatement, I think. Now, we think of Joshua, and as you said, you mentioned the Jewish people coming into the land. What happened here with Joshua and the tribes of Israel? They all gathered here for a very important moment. Tell us about it.
Okay. First of all, after the 40 years in the desert, they crossed into the country of Jericho, and for 14 years they're wandering around the country, settling the whole country. They finally come up here to divide it up and see who's going to go to what different places.
So this is where the tribes of Israel were divided up and where the land was basically divvied out.
Correct. Correct.
Wow. Now, Shiloh, obviously great biblical history, and we're going to talk more about it. Eli, Samuel, the prophet Samuel, Hannah, we're going to talk all about it. Before we get to that, today, I think one of the amazing things about it, a great place in the birth of the land of Israel, Nakum, as you described, but today, the Jewish people are back in Shiloh. Tell us about some of the great things happening here today.
Okay. Part of the rebirth of the country is going back to the places where the whole country was founded, which includes places like Shiloh. Today there are almost 450 families here and recreating what was once here.
And now how long ago? Was once here how long ago? 3,000 years ago?
Over 3,300 years ago, roughly.
3,300 years ago, this was a thriving city in the land of Israel, populated by the Jewish people.
Right, but it's not a modern capital. It wasn't a big city. It was a small city. Mostly just priests and Levites live here. The whole country comes here, shows up for the holidays, and goes back home.
Well, we're going to take a look around at that spot. You mentioned the Tabernacle, obviously. We're going to take a look there and some of the other amazing spots here in Shiloh. Should we take a look now? Should we get going?
Let's take a walk.
Nakum, lead the way. Let's go. Well, Nakum, here we are. This is the site where it's believed the tabernacle, and within it, the Ark of the Covenant once stood. Tell us what this place looked like 3,000 years ago.
Okay, well, that's one of the special things about Shiloh. Jerusalem looks nothing today like it looked thousands of years ago. But if you look around the hills right here, this looks pretty similar to the way it looked to people coming here to the tabernacle. And if you remember, there were maybe 2 million people coming here together. It was a small city. People came here, sitting around in all the hills, eating their sacrifice after bringing it to the tabernacle. This is the place, and this is what it looked like.
2 million people, all of the tribes of Israel, gathered here at once in Shiloh. That is pretty amazing. And Nakum, as you said, it looks biblical. I almost picture the prophet Samuel, who was born here, kind of walking one of these hills with a staff in his hand. It looks like it did, like you said, 3,000 years ago.
Well, it's good you say that, because this is actually the place right here.
This is the spot.
If you see there are these two parallel stone walls, these are exactly the width of the tabernacle. So this is probably where the tabernacle sat. We don't know exactly how far east or west, but this is the area, which means coming in from the east side, you run into the altar, the enormous altar, and after that you go into the main hall, you'd see the incense altar, you'd see the candelabra, you'd see the showbread table, and after that, behind that, a great big curtain, behind that, the Holy of Holies and the Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant behind the curtain, wow. And that would be in that direction right there, we believe. Okay, so with the Ark of the Covenant, in case someone has never read their Bible or never seen the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark, in all seriousness, why was the Ark of the Covenant so important?
Okay, this is the giving of the commandments. This is the very physical connection from God to man. This is the way to live. This is your life. The 10 commandments given to God on Sinai are inside the Ark.
They're inside the Ark of the Covenant. What else was inside the Ark?
Okay, you've got 3 things. First of all, you've got both sets of the tablets. The ones that were broken by Moses, the first set, and the second set, which Moses helped to write. You also have Aaron's staff, which was almost a magic wand, all sorts of miracles, plagues, incredible stuff happening.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and then you have a small jar of the manna. Manna, which is very special. The manna is the teaching tool God uses to teach us about the Sabbath, about the Shabbat. That's the first time he teaches this to us, and that's central to life.
And of course, manna from heaven. Of course, everyone knows the story. Now, the Ark of the Covenant is behind the curtain, right here where we're standing right now, and it's believed that God's presence dwelt behind that curtain, right?
Yeah.
The Holy of Holies. Now, not anyone could go in there where the Almighty's presence was. How did that work?
Okay, only one person went in there, and he only went in there one time a year. The high priest was able to go there on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. He was the only one went in. It was so sacred that he would go in with a rope tied around his waist. If something were to happen to him, no one could go in to get him out. They'd have to pull him out.
Wow. And it's interesting to me too, Nakum, as we're here in Shiloh, the tabernacle was kind of set apart from the rest of the city.
Right. The city is up over there, and we're outside the same way later in Jerusalem. You have the city up on the hill, and the temple right next to it.
For nearly 400 years, the Ark of the Covenant was here, the tabernacle. This was the spot, the holiest place for the Jewish people pre-Jerusalem.
This is true. This is true.
And you mentioned the high priest. I think of Eli, the high priest Eli, who was here in Shiloh. Talk about him and his family lineage here a little bit. Kind of controversial with his sons, of course.
All right, he's not the only high priest in Shiloh, but he's the last high priest in Shiloh. During his time, things run very well. His big problem is his sons. The same as Samuel later has problems with his sons. It's not easy raising sons. As he gets older, his sons take over the running of the tabernacle, and that's when problems start.
Up next, Hannah cries out from the tabernacle, and God gives her a son, but not just any son. After the break, we head back to Shiloh to hear the story of the prophet Samuel. Don't move.
Wars, terrorism, boycotts, international condemnation, anti-Semitic lies. None of these things have been able to destroy the hope, generosity, courage, and ingenuity of the Jewish state. Israeli scientists and inventors are on the cutting edge of exciting breakthroughs in medicine, technology, and agriculture. For 70 years, Israel has faced overwhelming odds and miraculously triumphed. The Jewish people have not only survived, they have thrived. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. And the world needs to know the truth. This palm-sized snapshot of Israel at 70, Just the Facts, will help you share Israel's history and accomplishments with everyone you meet. Call Christians United for Israel at 210-477-4714 or go to kufi.org/facts to receive your free gift. Israel is not a problem for the world to solve. Israel is solving the world's problems. Facts matter, so help Kufi share the truth about Israel at 70.
Now, Nahum, you mentioned Eli, the high priest, the last high priest here at the tabernacle, but I want to talk a bit about the prophet Samuel, who was born here. His mother Hannah was here, obviously. Tell us that amazing story. And a lot of it happened, a lot of the pivotal points in it happened here where we're standing right now.
Okay, it's actually a good key to understand what's really happening in the tabernacle. If you look at the two main people connected to Shiloh, Samuel and Hannah. Okay, Samuel is part of the same tradition as Moses. Moses goes into the tabernacle. Where does he speak with God? Where does he hear God's voice coming from? The two cherubim, the two angels on top of the ark. Okay? Samuel, the same thing. He gets his first prophecy here in Shiloh, where? Next to the ark. So Moses and the ark and Samuel all represent God speaking to man.
And Samuel went on, obviously, to have such a great role in King David's life and Saul.
Right. The other side is Hannah, a very unusual woman. Her husband marries a second wife. That doesn't happen that often because he's trying to give her children. If you don't have children today, you adopt a child, and often a couple, once they've adopted, has a child of their own.
And Hannah was barren.
Hannah was barren, had no children, so this is the same idea. He marries another woman so she could have children to help Hannah have children, but it didn't work. After that, Hannah still has no children. She turns to God with this incredible prayer. God, you made me a woman, please give me a child. And Hannah becomes her teacher. How do you ask something from God? How do you turn to God?
Hannah cried out from her soul to God for a child, Nahum, and God not only gave her a child, he gave her the prophet Samuel as her child, and she dedicated Samuel to the Lord. Pretty amazing. So how did things end in that era here in Shiloh? What happened? What happened to the tabernacle? What happened to the Ark of the Covenant? How did this city cease to be the center for worship for the Jewish people?
Another war breaks out with the Philistines, a place called Afek. It's about a half-hour drive straight west of here today. The war went very poorly. A lot of people were killed, and someone had a great idea. How do we win wars in the desert? God was with us. Let's go back to Shiloh, grab God, grab the box, bring it out to the site of the battle, take the ark.
So he took the Ark of the Covenant into battle.
Right, they did, which was a bad idea, okay? God's not in the box. The ark doesn't move when you want to do magic tricks. It moves when God says it should move. But they tried it anyway. They brought it out to the site of the battle, total disaster. That's where Eli's two sons are both killed. That's where the ark's captured by the Philistines. What happens afterwards is the Philistines come marching up the hill, they come to Shiloh, and they burn it to the ground. And that's the end of Shiloh as the center.
So Shiloh was destroyed. Now it was revived a bit later in the First Temple period.
There are other communities here afterwards. The tabernacle is never back here. It's never the center again. From here, it sort of wavers until David eventually reunites everything in Jerusalem.
Yeah, everything moves to Jerusalem. But what an amazing history here, Nahum. I mean, Samuel, Hannah, Eli, Joshua, the tribes, the tabernacle, the ark, Shiloh, what a special place. What's next? 450 families living here. It's being reborn. What's next for this amazing city?
The same as originally. Shiloh was sort of the preparation to go up to Jerusalem. Today, rebuilding the community here may be the same thing as the community of Israel. Again, gets ready at the time, can really go up to Jerusalem in the classical sense.
Great things happening. Nahum, thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks again to Nahum for that amazing tour through the ancient ruins of Shiloh. Now, as Nakum mentioned, Shiloh is growing and thriving once again today. Over 400 families live there on the mountains of Israel, and it is beautiful. Next time you're here in Israel, make sure to pay them a visit. Well, up next, we head to the southernmost city in Israel to see how one couple is providing shelter and the gospel to travelers along the legendary Israel Trail. Stick around for more great stories from right here in God's land. I'd like you to join me and the leaders of Christians United for Israel in Washington, D.C. on July 23rd and 24th for our annual summit. It's going to be an exciting celebration of Israel's 70th anniversary as a modern nation, as well as a great time of learning more about Israel from some of the top Middle East experts in the field. But most important, you'll have the opportunity to personally deliver a strong pro-Israel message to members of Congress on Capitol Hill. When it comes to your elected officials, your voice is what matters most. They need to see and hear from you. Go to kufi.org now to register for our Washington, D.C. summit for just $75 when you use the discount code Watchman. I'll be in D.C. this summer, and I hope you'll be there too to raise your voice with me for Zion's sake. And welcome back. The Israel Trail stretches from Mount Hermon in Israel's north all the way down to the southernmost city of Eilat. Walking the trail is like walking through the pages of the Bible. John and Judy Pex loved it so much, they decided to stay and share their love of this land and the Lord at the Shelter Hostel in Eilat. Here's their amazing story.
The Israel National Trail, which we call Shvil Israel in Hebrew, is an amazing experience. For me, it was also a life-changing experience. You don't know the country, the land of Israel, unless you do it by foot, like Jesus did and all the other prophets and everyone else. So for us, it was, from day one, it was amazing.
It's rated as one of the top 10 trails in the world by National Geographic. And when you can think about the trails in New Zealand and America and the Camino de Santiago, there's a lot of competition, and that we came up to be one of the top 10 trails. It's really amazing. The other reason why they got a lot of recommendations is because of the trail angels.
Trail angels are people that love people, and that love people on the trail. So for example, I think a lot of trail angels did the trail themselves, and people helped them, like we. People help us from all over the place, from the south to the north. They can give you a place to stay, they can give you a meal, that can give you logistics, that can help you putting you back on the trail if you're off the trail, and they can also cash your water and food.
Some people are giving a place in your garden, like a tent, where you could put your tent up. Some people are many are inviting you into their home. And we are also trail angels, and so people can sleep here the first or the last night.
With the Israel Trail, you have to plan, especially here in the desert, where to stash or how to get your food, and water is most important.
After we finished the trail, it was such a life-changing experience. We wanted to keep going. We would have, if we had the time, I think we would have turned around and walked back again.
When we came to Eilat as new immigrants in '76, we started opening our home. People could sleep in the floor with mattresses, and so slowly we started the congregation. First in our home, and then we rented a place, and now we have people, like Jews and Gentiles, black and white, people from all over the world.
Shua, Shua, kama tov לשבת לרגליך.
After looking for a name for quite a while, maybe Oasis in the Desert or something else, but then we found this verse in the Bible, and it says here, And there will be a sukkah, which is a tabernacle, the sukkah here in the back, for a shade, and in the daytime from the heat, a place for shelter, right, for refuge, and for a shelter from the storm and the rain. So we decided to call the shelter here in Eilat the shelter. So now we go. You want to see? So this is the entrance of the shelter. We have 4 rooms with 5 beds here. We also have families here. This is the kitchen, the public kitchen. People can cook for themselves. This is the office. These are the maps. This is the Eilat map. Here, a free night for the people who finish the trail. Every morning at 11 o'clock, people from all over coming, even people that don't stay in the shelter. And so we have from 11 till 12, the people are cleaning now. After 11, we go into the sukkah here. So we have here Bible studies. We have like a half an hour worship. We sing songs in different languages, Hebrew, English. And then we have a Bible study. Right now we are in the Gospel of John. I think it's chapter 4 today.
We have like 4 or 5 volunteers at any given time. And they do the work of here. They do the registration, the cleaning, the interaction with guests, sometimes meals with guests. And John is the general supervisor and manager, and I work on the reservations, and that's it. But because we like this lifestyle.
I'm volunteering here because I love it, I enjoy it, and it's like my family here. When you once come here, it's hard not to fall in love with this place.
Made a lot of friends here. I really love how John and Judy are very open and loving, and you read the Bible every morning, so it's very encouraging and helped me to grow closer to God as well.
There's 3 basic things what we need, everyone needs for having a fulfilled life. You need to do something, you need to love something, and you need to hope for something. And so we have all 3 of them, you know. We have something to do. I'm 71 years old. I could have been pensioned and go to Florida and play golf or whatever, you know. And to love something, we love God above all, love Jesus, love people. And we have hope. Hope for not only now, but hope for eternity.
We believe that young people, especially these days, are looking for community, that people are looking for meaning, and they're looking for family. There's so many broken families these days, and there's so much lack. When we started 32 years ago, already then, but all the more so, even with the social media and everything, there's lack of interaction with people and relationships. And so we believe that people are really looking for relationships and a place where they can meet people. And if you go to a hotel, well, for sure, you know, you're not going to interact with people or meet people. But this is a place that guests come and they find friends.
The Israel National Trail connects a lot of places, also biblical places, you know, like Caesarea and Jerusalem, and goes through Nazareth and Tiberias and up and down all the mountains that are written in the Bible, because there's a lot of mountains here in Israel. And it's for us, it was a life-changing experience. It was a wonderful time in our lives, you know, that for us. Afterwards, we said, is there life after the trail? In other words, and a lot of people that come here, they say, wow, man, I want to walk it again.
Thanks again to John and Judy for sharing the story of the Shelter Hostel. You see the information there on your screen, so pay them a visit the next time you are in Eilat. It's a beautiful place. Well, up next, we're walking through the pages of the Bible on today's show. But how can we know that it's real? A new book gives us the answers after the break. It's The Watchman. It's Christians United for Israel, only right here on TBN. Stick around.
With over 3.5 million members, Christians United for Israel is the largest pro-Israel organization in America. And for Zion's sake, we will not remain silent. We won't stand for the lies and political attacks that threaten Israel's safety and the future of the Jewish people in their God-given homeland. We want you to join us in this sacred movement.
The Jewish people are not alone. Christians United for Israel, I want to thank you for standing up for Israel. I want to thank you for standing up and being counted. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Israel needs you to take a stand. Join Christians United for Israel. Make your voice heard and be remembered as a defender of Israel, the apple of God's eye.
And welcome back. We like to say that when you combine the truth of the Bible with rock-solid archaeological and scientific evidence, you have an unbeatable combination. Well, a new book by BASSETT-BRODY called Etched in Stone lays out the case for the Bible through some of the amazing discoveries in this land. Take a look.
The stories within the pages of the Bible are historical and factual. They did not happen in a vacuum, and they're not made up. The way we know this is because we have physical proof. When we talk about the Bible, it's so abstract to many people. Anytime you have physical proof, it's going to support what you're saying. If you have a photo of an event that happened, or if you have video of an event that happened, you can use that as evidence. No one can really question that. And archaeology is the same way.
Folks, you can pick up Etched in Stone where books are sold. Lisette says that coming to Israel brought the Bible alive for her and changed her life. Our team at Christians United for Israel can definitely relate. We are the world's largest pro-Israel organization with over 4 million members. And for Zion's sake, we will not remain silent. You see the information there on your screen, so join us and become a part of what God is doing in this land today. Well, thanks for joining us this week here on The Watchman from Jerusalem. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.